All right, looks like we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Just let me get a couple things going here, get the chat window up so I can see all your beautiful comments. There we go. Welcome, everyone, as you start to pile into the room, the virtual room here. And let's do one more thing. All righty. Okay, hello, Photo Retouch Space. What's going on? Just getting all my chat windows up so we can get started. Also giving people a chance to jump into the room as well. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see people coming in. I can now see comments. Hey, Victoria, how's it going? And welcome Finishing Touch, as well as Becker Biz and Digital King. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mauve Media, Photo Retouch. And for whatever reason, I am not seeing Facebook comments here. Let me just do this real quick. Greetings, Munich. How are you? Across the pond, as they say. All right, one more window to get open here, and then we can get started. Eugene, how's it going? Daniel, how's it going? All right, there we go. Got more people in now. All righty. Levon Hall's in the house as well. All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live on this beautiful Friday afternoon. We're going to be talking about customizing your tool panels for both Photoshop and Illustrator. So whether you're a Photoshop user or an Illustrator user, I think you'll be able to take advantage of the things we're going to see today. Especially if you look at the extensive list of tools in both programs and you say, well, I never use this one. I use this one all the time. I never use this one. I don't even know what this one does, so forth and so on. So that's what this is all about. Customizing that tool panel so it's only the tools you use, the ones you love, and more importantly, streamlining the entire interface to just the things you need. So without further ado, let's see if I can switch over to the computer. And I did. And now that I'm on the computer, we're going to start in Photoshop, and then we'll pop over to Illustrator, which the process is very similar, not exactly the same, but very similar. In Photoshop, what I've done, just to kind of reset and start from where everyone else will most likely be starting from, I have switched it over to the Essentials workspace. So in the upper right-hand corner of your Photoshop interface, it used to actually even say the name of the workspace spelled out right there at the top of the interface. Now it's a little square, it's a drop-down menu to show you the built-in workspaces that come with Photoshop. So there's Essentials, 3D for doing 3D work, graphic, and web, motion, for painting, and photography. And these have been here for years. Workspaces are certainly not a new feature. However, Workspaces now work in conjunction with the new feature for Photoshop, and that is the ability to create your own custom tool panel settings. So with that said, we're going to create a new workspace and then customize the tools that we want to see in that workspace. That way, for example, if you were working with retouching, which I do all the time, then you might want a workspace that just shows the retouching tools you use all the time. The healing brush, the clone stamp, the dodge and burn, so forth and so on, and kind of hides all the ones you're not using for retouching. And then maybe if you were a digital artist or a digital painter, you'd want all the brush tools showing separately. You'd want your regular brush, you'd want your regular brush and I can never think of the name of it. Where is it here? You want your mixer brush tool. Yes, you want your mixer brush tool. You want all those tools, not so you don't have to pull them out in the menu, but you want them all to be separated. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump over and create a new workspace first. Just come all the way down on the right-hand side to New Workspace. And then once you click on New Workspace, you can then give that workspace a name. So I'm just going to call this one Adobe Live. Now, you'll notice that when you create a new workspace, you have an option for it will switch the toolbar for you. It can also switch menus and keyboards. So you can have even custom keyboards by workspace. You could have custom menus by workspace. So instead of seeing, for example, all the menus across, maybe I don't need all the menus for this kind of thing that I'm going to be doing. We'll get into that in a much deeper stream about customizing or making Photoshop your own, customizing everything, but right now we'll just concentrate on the toolbar. So I'm going to go ahead and, hello Gabriel. I'm going to go ahead and hello Elizabeth. I'm going to go ahead and just save this workspace right now. And it should have chosen it, and it did. So now I'm on my Adobe Live workspace. So now that I'm on that workspace, I can switch things around. I can move things around. I can open up things I need. So for example, maybe I want the adjustments panel open. Maybe I want the adjustments panel, or put it this way, maybe I don't need the properties panel, so I can go ahead and close that and go to my window menu and grab other panels. So for example, maybe I like the histogram panel to be showing, so I can pull that panel out and just show any panels that I want. I can, of course, rearrange them and put them in any order I want. Now let's talk about the tools. If you go up to the Edit menu, there's a brand new option in Photoshop CC, fairly new, I should say, called Toolbar. Just go to Edit and Toolbar, and that will give you the option now to customize your toolbar. So on the left-hand side, it shows you the current look of your toolbar. And you'll notice that there's Move Tool and Artboard Tool, and they're kind of grouped together. And that's the way they are in the tool panel right now. The Move Tool and Artboard Tool are grouped under each other. And then you've got all your marquee and selection tools. They're grouped under each other. And then you got your lasso and all your lasso tools that are grouped under each other. So forth and so on. So for example, let's say that I, for whatever reason, in the Adobe Live workspace, I never use the single row marquee and I never use the single column. Then what I can do is just simply drag those over to this extra tools area. And what that means, it's not going to delete them from Photoshop. It's just going to say, hey, you don't use these. We will take them off your toolbar. More importantly, let's say I want the rectangular and elliptical marquee to be separate. I don't want those I don't want to have to constantly go under each tool to grab the other one. So I can just pull that down to separate it. And you can look over here on the tool panel, it actually did it. It made the rectangular marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool are now separated from each other. I don't ever have to click on one and drill down to the other one. They're now separate tools I can click on whenever I want. For example, maybe I don't need the magnetic lasso. I like the magnetic lasso, but maybe I don't need it for this workspace. Maybe I don't need the perspective crop tool or the slice tool. I'm not doing web design for this workspace. So I can go ahead and pull all of these tools that I don't need out. I don't need the 3D material eyedropper. I don't need the ruler tool. I don't need the note tool. I don't need the count tool. I like the color sampler tool, but maybe I'll just go ahead and pull that down separately. And I love all of these, but I don't need the red eye tool. So I can just go ahead and pull those down. Okay, so not only can you break tools out, get rid of tools you don't need, but you can also prioritize tools. So let's say with the addition of moving things around on the canvas, I'm always cropping. So what I can do is just simply move the crop tool up in the list. So now, right under the move tool is the crop tool. I don't have to scroll down and look for it anymore. It's the second tool, because maybe it's the second tool I use the most. Same thing for, maybe I use the spot healing tool, which I do. I use it a lot. I'm going to go ahead and move that up under the crop tool. And I also use the patch tool a lot. So I can go back to the patch tool, and I can go ahead and pull that one up and separate it out. So I don't want it to be in the same group. So now those two tools are the next in line as tools I use the most. So you're starting to get the idea. You make the tool panel whatever you want it to be, hiding tools you don't use, and of course, rearranging tools you use all the time. Don't use the paint bucket that much. I do use the pen tool, but maybe not as much. And of course, I use the type tool all the time. I shouldn't have to go way down there to look for it. Always adding type to my images. So I'll pull the type tool to be right up here near the top. So now the type tool's got its own set, or its own broken out from the other type tools all the way at the top where I use it all the time. Now, you might say, well, what happens when you need a tool that you took off the tool panel? Let's say for this one instance, I'm going to need the perspective crop tool. Let's do a couple things first. Let's save this as a preset first. We're going to save this just in case and call it Adobe Live. That way you can also load it onto other machines. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click Done. And that will give me the new custom tool panel, and it's only for this workspace. So if I switch back to Essentials, which is where I was, watch the tool panel. The tool panel changed. So I got my type tools not up there anymore. It's all the way back down here. The other tools I broke out aren't up there anymore because I'm in a different workspace. If I switch back to my workspace, Adobe Live, then my tools come back. So this way I can really, truly have just the tools I want at any given time, depending on the kind of work I'm doing. If I'm doing a lot of heavy-duty retouching, I have a retouching workspace. So if I switch to that, it switches to the tools I use the most when I'm retouching, breaking out the ones I'm always using so I don't have to keep digging for them, so forth and so on. And also, if I want, I can go back to Adobe Live, and let's get back to that question I asked. What if I need a particular tool that I took off? I need that perspective crop tool. So do I have to go back and edit and add it back in just to use it that one time? No. You'll notice that at the very bottom, or near the very bottom of the tool panel, you've got these three little dots. And these three little dots will let you get to all the tools you temporarily hid or removed. So if I click, there they all are. They're always there. You're never deleting a tool, so you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I threw away that tool and 2 months later I actually need it. You can just get rid of all the ones and simplify Photoshop to just the ones you need. And if you ever need a tool, it's always available at the very bottom. If I need perspective crop, now I've got perspective crop and I can go ahead and use perspective crop. But that way, it's not taking up any extra space. So as soon as I click off that tool, it goes back to the three dots, the menu to get to the land of misfit tools, the ones we don't use all the time. And I can continue to edit and continue to remove tools that I don't need, prioritize tools that I need, break out tools that are under each other, and get this looking just the way I want for the kind of use that I need it for. All right, so that's just a quick look at how to do this in Photoshop. How can you get the two columns? Okay, that's a good question. Troy's asking, how can I get the two columns back? And a lot of people that are new don't even realize that there was a two-column toolbar. Right now, we're looking at the toolbar all as one single column. But back in the day, when Photoshop and all these apps first appeared, the toolbar was actually two columns. It wasn't just one single column. But once displays and monitors got bigger, we could stretch it all the way down. So his question is, how do I get back to that two-column feel? You'll notice at the very tippy top, that's a word, tippy top of the tool panel, there's this little double arrow icon. Watch what happens when I click it. Two-column toolbar. Mind blown. Yes, it's always there. It was never gone. It's just we hid it, meaning single column in case you want two column. So if you like working with a two-column toolbar, you can. And that way you can get more tools. You can have it be longer because you can have the two columns of tools. And you can switch that back and forth at any time. That's just a toggle between one column and two column as needed. So that's how that works. All right, next up. No problem, Elizabeth. And I'm sorry, no problem, Troy. And yes, Elizabeth, that is funny, I think. Okay, so anyway, customize the panels, customize the tools to every workspace you need. Now let's pop over to Illustrator and see how that works. And like I said, it's kind of the same thing, but different. Let's pop over to Illustrator. And in Illustrator, you've got workspaces as well. As a matter of fact, the name for your workspaces is still called out right there in the panel. So I had one called PDS. I don't remember what show that was, but I had a show where I demoed this and it was called PDS. And then I've got Terry White, which is the one I use all the time. And of course, these are the ones that are built in. Automation, Essentials, Layout, Painting, Printing and Proofing, Tracing, Typography, and Web. Those are the workspaces that are built in. So if I switch to Essentials, it will give me the Essentials workspace, which I probably need to reset Essentials. Let's go ahead and reset it. There we go. Reset Essentials, and now Essentials is back to the default, the way Illustrator ships. In other words, the way if you first install Illustrator, this is the workspace you would get. And hello, Jan, how are you? Welcome, all the way from Norway. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new workspace, just like we did before. We'll call this one Adobe Live as well. And we're in Illustrator now, so how do we do it in Illustrator? You think, okay, run up to the edit menu and go down to, oh, there's no toolbar there, because of course it's different. As a matter of fact, you might say, well, why didn't they put it in the same space Photoshop did? Illustrator had this first. So it would be more like, why didn't Photoshop put it where Illustrator put it? Because Photoshop had the custom tool panels first. Where do I find it in Illustrator? In Illustrator, it's actually under the window menu. Under the window menu, you would go in and you would come down to Tools. And you will see your default toolbar, and you'll see the new ones you create. So this is what I meant by sounds familiar, create a workspace, then go create the tool panel you want, and then switch workspaces and it'll switch tools. Here's the difference. In Illustrator, you always have the default tool panel. You never get rid of it. You never really altering it. Like you did in Photoshop, you actually changed that tool panel to be what you wanted. In Illustrator, it's different from the standpoint of you make a new tool panel, and we'll name it Adobe Live, and it's blank, meaning it doesn't have any tools on it yet until you put tools on it. So now you steal the tools you need from the regular tool panel onto your own custom tool panel. So for example, I know I'm going to need the selection tool. And let's go ahead and make a double column. I know I'm going to need the direct selection tool. I know I'm going to use the pen tool. I know I'm going to use the type tool, and so forth and so on. So yes, I want a line tool. I want the rectangle tool. I want the ellipse tool. So again, these are separate. We aren't combining them. Oh, wait, hang on. There we go. All right, we'll add that one in as well. And I want the, so forth and so on. Yes, do I want the paintbrush? Nah, I don't need the paintbrush. I do need the shaper tool. I do need the width tool. I do need the free transform tool. I use that all the time. I do need the shape builder tool. Yes, I use that all the time. I don't need the perspective grid tool. I do use the scale tool. I do use the gradient mesh tool. I do use the gradient tool. I do use the eyedropper. so forth and so on. Don't use the blend tool as much, don't use the symbol sprayer, don't use the graphing tool. I do use the artboard tool, which you just switch to artboards. Don't use the slice tool. I do need the hand tool, and I do need the zoom tool. So now I've made my tool panel, my new Adobe Live tool panel, to be exactly what I need it to be. And then you might say, well, why do I need 2 tool panels? And you don't. So you can, of course, keep 2 tool panels. You put maybe one on one side, one on the other, put one on one display, one on the other. But in reality, the whole point of making this was so you wouldn't have to see all of this. You wouldn't see all these tools you're not using. So we can go up to the window menu after you're done, tools, and turn off the default tool panel. Once you turn that one off, you're now with your tool panel, and your tool panel only has in it just the tools you use. No longer having to be stuck with all those extra tools. You've got just the ones you use on a regular basis. So that's the way it works in Illustrator. So now if I switch from Adobe Live back to Essentials, I get all the tools back. If I switch to Adobe Live, I get just the Adobe Live tool panel that I created. So that way, I get just the tools I need when I need them at any given time. That's how it works. All right. Let me just check one more thing. I'm looking at your questions here. Dun, 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 dun. Let me check one thing real quick just to make sure we're on track. We are on track. There we are. Okay, sorry about that, folks. All right, so I see some questions here. Let me make sure I get them all. In Photoshop, when you select the tool, such as the option, there's that text. All right, so Troy's asking, in Photoshop, when you select a tool such as the magic wand, the icons in the option bar no longer have text. Can I get those text labels back? Let me see if I understand what the question is. So, for example, if I go up and I select which option bar text are you referring to? Let me see which tool you said in particular. You said when you switch to a tool such as the magic wand. All right, let me switch. First of all, I don't think I put the magic wand on there. Let me go back to mine. All right, I got the magic wand. Which text are you referring to in the option bar? I see text there, but I'm not sure which text you're referring to. Yeah, it could be that, you know, if your display is too small, that's a good question, or the good answer, Jan. If your display is too small, it may be cutting things off, but I'm not sure what text you're missing. And hello, Pat Black from Bristol, UK. Welcome. So not sure which text you're referring to as missing. Dun, 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 dun. And Evil, so is it Cersei? Glad you think it's cool. I think it's cool too. You see it on my screen. Okay, you see what on my screen? You see the text? Okay, well, therefore it works, so I'm not sure. You have a 30-inch display, so that's clearly not the problem. Not sure why you're not seeing the text. You know, what in particular? Are you talking about this up here? All of this is missing, or certain things are missing? It just depends on what you're referring to. And by the way, let's just answer that for everybody as a potential resolution to this issue. If you find that you have messed up a workspace, like you have turned off some panels or things go missing, or you know, you kind of like, oh no, what did I do? So for example, if I were to go back to Essentials and I start pulling stuff out, I start doing stuff, I start changing it, I said, who needs channels? And I close that panel. And later I come back, and let's say I switch to one of my own now. So I'll switch to my own, and then I'll go back to Essentials. You notice that even though I'm on one of the built-in, that's a built-in workspace, I didn't create that, Essentials comes with Photoshop, that means that I have now altered Essentials. I have now customized it. I've thrown away turned off the channels panel, and I have moved some panels around, and yes, I could have customized some tools, but at that point, you might get to a point where you say, well, wait, I need Essentials to be back to the way it was, or whatever workspace it is, back to the way it was when I created it, or when I first started using it. So at that point, if you feel like you've messed up a workspace, especially one of the built-in ones, all you have to do is go up to the workspace menu and come all the way down to Reset. So if I say Reset Essentials, that means put it back to its factory defaults, which is this. And I actually don't like it that way. But anyway, put it back to its factory defaults, and that will put it back to the way it was. So I had already moved Library Panel out and put it over here, and forgot that I even did that, actually over here. And I had already started customizing it. But resetting the workspace, resetting the tool, resetting a panel will always put that panel, tool, or resource back to the way it was when it shipped. Now, I don't know if there is a reset for the control panel. If there is, that's the way I would also attempt it. So you've also got the ability to reset tools. If you think you've messed a tool up and it's not quite the way it should be anymore, you can reset the tool presets back to the way they were when that tool was first used. All right, Levon, thanks for being here, and check you out later. And we're just about done anyway. I'm just answering some last minute questions. Reset doesn't do it for you. Not sure, Troy, it might be at that point, it might be time to reset your Photoshop preferences, which you can do by quitting Photoshop and launching it with like the whole left side of the keyboard down. You know, Command, Control, Option, Alt, Shift. When you launch Photoshop, it'll ask you, do you want to reset your preferences? And then you can just say yes, and that hopefully will bring it back. If that doesn't bring it back, then at that point it might be time to contact tech support. All right. Let's see if I missed any other questions here. All right, Donna, thank you for being here as well. Larry Becker, 2 columns, just like the old times. Yep. And good morning, Kathleen. All right. Okay, anything else before we dodge out of here? I think that's it. Okay. Nice one, Scott. Will I do another live focusing on Illustrator for the mesh and gradient tool? I may or may not, but if you want to see a live focusing on those tools, Paul Tranny, who's my colleague, does most of the Illustrator streams. So he's doing them every week on facebook.com/Illustrator, and he does them regularly here on the Creative Cloud YouTube channel as well. So if you're looking for those, then he's going to be doing Illustrator more often than I do it. Why only 720p? I don't know. Why is it only 720p for you? I'm broadcasting in 1080p. All right, so with that said, everybody, cheers, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Happy Friday. Glad I could hopefully inspire you to go create some custom workspaces, some custom tool panel settings, and we can also get into custom menu settings and so forth and so on, but we'll save that for another time. All right, and with that said, let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it. All right. I I see nothing but thank yous, and thank you as well for being here. All right, guys, everybody, take care. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. And thanks for joining me on all the various platforms that you're joining me on today. Cheers, everybody. Bye.